So this will be the first video I ever upload in 2018. So I guess we're kicking off 2018 with a pretty good one. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we are looking at the Pentium G4560 against a used CPU called the Q8300. This CPU is a pretty old CPU. It's based on the LG A775 socket, so it's over 8 years old. And this CPU has more physical cores than the Pentium G4560 but lower clock rates. So I decided to compare it against the Pentium G4560. How good can a CPU like that perform in 2018? Now keep in mind that getting a used gaming PC right now is the best option for you if you are on a budget, because the Pentium G4560 is around $100 right now. It used to be for $60 to $65. Something like an i5-2400 or like an old i7 CPU is a great alternative, especially when considering RAM is really overpriced right now. An 8GB stick of DDR4 RAM costs around $90. I remember that they are going down in price. They were around 80 like a week ago, but I don't know about now. So I have paired the Q8300 with an RX 460. Now the Pentium G4560 was paired with the GTX 1050 and an RX 460. These benchmarks were not mine. I will link where I got the benchmarks down in the description. So we're not testing a lot of 2018 games because I couldn't find benchmarks with the Pentium G4560 and an RX 460 GPU. Anyway, looking at the older games, the Pentium G4560 did pretty well, and the Q8300 could keep up on ultra settings or somewhere around that. Keep in mind that the RX 460 has 2GB of VRAM, so in some cases you might find a GPU bottleneck, not a CPU one. When playing at medium to low settings, you will find somewhat of a bottleneck when you pair it with the Q8300, but actually there is a bottleneck with the Pentium G4560 when you compare it to an i5, of course. But still, the G4560, when it comes to getting the most frame rates out of your PC, it's the king right there. And when you compare it to something like an X4 950, I guess the Q8300 did pretty well. So without wasting any more time, let's get to the benchmark. First up with Cinebench, the Q8300 wasn't that far away from the Pentium G4560, and when overclocked you'd find somewhere around 100 points difference in multi-core. But it's not that good in single core performance. But anyway, I would call it really great considering its age, and it will do really fine in gaming. So first up with Rise of the Tomb Raider, and the results were really close from each other at 1080p. As you can see right now, the Q8300 wasn't that far away from the Pentium G4560. Now keep in mind that I didn't overclock the Q8300. Every time I do overclock this CPU, the PC doesn't post any signal. I guess it's a problem in the board. It will do some difference in the gaming performance, but we're taking it the way it is. Next up, looking at Far Cry Primal, and we didn't get really good frame rates when you compare it to the G4560. We got somewhere around 30 frames per second. So yeah, the Q8300 is doing a good job so far. And also in GTAV we were able to get around the same frame rates when playing at 1080p very high settings. Now there are not completely maxed out settings because the VRAM limitations, but anyway, we got around 33 frames per second, which is pretty good, but it's not really accurate, but it's not a big deal in my opinion. Now next up we have Csgo. In Csgo it was a complete letdown, which made me play this game at 4K medium settings, getting 60 frames per second, because as you can see right now, the Pentium G4560 maxed out settings 1080p with an RX 460 or a GTX 1050, it was getting around 125 frames per second or over that. But with the Q8300 we couldn't go anywhere over 80 frames per second when playing on the lowest settings possible. Now next up, The Witcher 3, and it's the GPU intensive game, but anyway at 1080p ultra settings we got around 30 frames per second on average. As you can see right now, it's not that far behind again from the Pentium G4560, GTX 1050 pairing or the RX 460 pairing. On Fortnite 1080p low settings we were able to get somewhere around 75 to 80 frames per second. Now there were a lot of stutters because the CPU was fully utilized and I was recording using the CPU. That's why it's fine the frame rates around 60 to 70 frames per second, but I would get an extra 5 to 10 frame rates per second when I'm not recording. So the conclusion in today's video that the Pentium G4560 is a great CPU for the price. Now the Q8300 is a good CPU, but there are a lot of things that it can do when you compare it to the Pentium G4560. The low IPC won't make it a good CPU when it comes to video editing and more CPU intensive games, and also when you play at 1080p medium to low settings to get really high frame rates, you will get a CPU bottleneck. The CPU won't be able to keep up with the GPU anymore. So this is a budget GPU, it's around $100, so you can't pair it with anything higher than that or you will get really severe bottlenecking. What I'm saying is that it's not a good time to get a new gaming PC right now, considering the really high prices of PC parts like RAM, GPU prices. I mean, when you look at the RX 470 on the RX 480, something like that, it will be around like $180 to $200. If you can find a good deal on it, you'll get it for that price, but it's really overpriced right now, and you will save a lot of money when you compare a Pentium G4560 gaming PC to this PC. You would pay like $200 to $300 less. Like, I built this Q8300 RX 460 gaming PC for around $100, and I play games at 1440p, not 1080p. I really like 1440p, and the RX 460 is really capable of playing games at this resolution. So yeah, would I recommend this Q8300? Actually not. Get a CPU higher than this, like an i5 750, which is the first gen i5. It's really good for the money, or your first gen i7. This will be better for the money, and it will give you better performance when you pair it with a GPU like the GTX 1060 or something like that. The best way to get a really great bang for buck is to buy a pre-built gaming PC and you slap a really great budget GPU in it, something like a GTX 970 or a GTX 780. They are really great GPUs for the money if you want to step it up over the GTX 1050 Ti. So that's all I want to say in today's video, guys. If you liked that video, press on that like button, press on that dislike button, and tell me why in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.